Rome's last great general, outnumbered, undermined, unbroken. Belisarius. The last Roman. Smoke coiled above the fortress walls, curling into the red evening sky. Arrows hissed past like angry insects, clattering against the Byzantine shields. Beneath the deafening roar of war horns, a lone rider emerged from the dust, his armor dulled by countless campaigns. His eyes fixed on the horizon where the Persian banners of the Sassanid Empire rippled in the wind. His name was Belisarius, the man Emperor Justinian called upon when the empire trembled, the man whose mind could read the battlefield like an open scroll. On that day, the eastern frontier stood on the edge of collapse. The Sassanids had breached the borders, their armies moving like a tide of steel and fire. City after city fell before them. The empire's legions were scattered, its generals either dead or disgraced. And yet, against the most formidable enemy of the age, Justinian entrusted the fate of Rome's eastern provinces to one man. The world would remember Alexander at Gaugamela, Hannibal at Cannae, Caesar at Alesia. But Belisarius's battle against the Sassanids would be a clash not only of armies, but of wits, where one wrong move could shatter the empire forever. Could a single general, isolated and outnumbered, hold back the most powerful war machine of the East? And if he succeeded, why would history nearly erase his name? In the 6th century, the Eastern Roman Empire, what we now call the Byzantine Empire, was a realm of contradictions. Its capital, Constantinople, gleamed with marble colonnades, golden domes, and the wealth of the known world. Yet beyond its towering walls, danger lurked in every direction. To the west, the Gothic wars drained men and gold. To the south, restless provinces teetered on rebellion. And to the east stood the Sassanid Empire, ancient Persia reborn, unyielding, disciplined, and led by kings who claimed descent from the gods. The frontier between Byzantium and Persia was a scar running through the lands of Mesopotamia and Armenia. For centuries, it had been the arena where legions and cataphracts clashed, cities were besieged, and treaties were signed in blood. By the time Justinian took the throne, this frontier was already smoldering with tension. Skirmishes flared like sparks before a wildfire. It was here, in this crucible, that Belisarius first proved his worth. Born in Thrace, far from the marble courts of Constantinople, he rose through the ranks not through family name, but through a mind sharpened for war. His soldiers said he could see the shape of a battle before it began. He understood the temperament of men, the limits of supply lines, and the subtle art of making an enemy doubt. When word came that the Sassanids were massing their armies, the emperor faced a choice: entrust the defense of the empire's richest eastern provinces to the political favorites of the court, or to the man whose victories had already carried Rome's banners across distant fields, Belisarius was given the command. His mission: hold the frontier, repel the Persian advance, and safeguard the empire's honor. But in the shadows of palaces and war councils, envy brewed. There were those who feared his rising fame as much as they feared the enemy's swords. The stage was set, not for a single battle, but for a test of endurance, loyalty, and genius. If you were the emperor, would you risk your empire's survival on one man's brilliance? Do you think Belisarius's greatest enemy was across the border, or within his own court? The spark that set the eastern frontier aflame came, as it so often did, from a fragile peace treaty. The Byzantines and Sassanids had signed the so-called Eternal Peace in 532, a name that would prove bitterly ironic. Justinian, obsessed with reclaiming lost Western territories, shifted troops and resources away from the east, assuming the Persian threat had been contained. But in Ctesiphon, the Sassanid capital, King Khosrow I saw an opening. With Byzantine forces stretched thin in Italy and Africa, the eastern provinces lay vulnerable. Khosrow was not merely a monarch. He was a strategist, philosopher, and warrior king, revered by his people as Anushirvan the Just. He understood that wars were not only won with swords, but with timing. In 540, the Persian war machine rolled forward. The Sassanid army was a formidable hybrid of heavy cavalry cataphracts, elite archers, and siege engineers. They moved with discipline, striking fortified cities like Antioch with calculated precision. Their tactics were a blend of speed and shock, overwhelming defenses before reinforcements could arrive, and leaving a trail of fear to undermine resistance elsewhere. Belisarius, fresh from his victories in the west, was recalled to meet this eastern storm. But the situation was worse than he imagined. Byzantine garrisons were undermanned, supplies scarce, and morale shaken by reports of Persian atrocities. Even worse, imperial politics gnawed at his authority. Officials in Constantinople questioned his loyalty, sending spies disguised as advisors to watch his every move. Crossing into the war zone was like stepping into a different world. Towns smoldered in the wake of Persian raids. Refugees clogged the roads, carrying tales of massacre and enslavement. The fertile lands of Syria and Mesopotamia had become a chessboard of forts and river crossings, each a potential trap for the unwary. Belisarius adapted quickly. He avoided meeting the Persians in open battle unless conditions favored him, instead striking their supply lines, ambushing smaller detachments, and forcing them to overextend. Yet every move was a gamble. The Sassanids were quick learners. Each time Belisarius devised a new tactic, Khosrow's generals found a counter. This was not a war of overwhelming strength. It was a duel of minds, waged across deserts, rivers, and ruined cities. For the first time in years, the empire's fate hung in the balance, not on distant frontiers, but at the very heart of its richest lands. The threshold had been crossed. There was no turning back. If you were in Belisarius's place, would you risk everything on bold strikes, or dig in and defend what little you had left? Do you think the greatest danger in this war came from Persian armies or Byzantine politics? The Persian frontier was not a single battle to be won. It was a relentless series of trials, each demanding a different blend of patience, cunning, and nerve